Sherman, and today we are going to have some fun with large language models in the context of building interactive prototypes as a product designer. Now, LLMs have come a long way in the last couple of years, and for me, in professional practice, they have gone from something that is kind of a curiosity that I use for napkin sketches and early concepts into things that are much more real. I'm talking things like interactive maps that you can pan and zoom and scroll and see actual data and interact with it without defining in Figma all the states for every little bit and bob that you might want to have in that prototype. Now, this might all be throwaway code, but that's fine. The learnings that you get by testing something that's high fidelity, that is as close to real as possible, are well worth the throwaway code that you generate along the way. So, without further ado, what we are going to do is I'm going to share my screen here and walk you through the tools that you'll need to follow along as we do this. So, what you're going to need are three things: a text editor, and I'm going to use Visual Studio Code in this case, free. You could use Sublime Text, really anything that lets you create text files and drop in code. We're going to use a browser. In this case, we're going to use Google Chrome. And you need a large language model, an account to something. In this case, we're going to use ChatGPT. You could use Claude. You could use a host of a lot of the really advanced models that are out and available today. So what we're going to build is something like this. I love maps. I love mapping tools and data visualization, especially data on maps that you can really explore and see things that you couldn't see on a static image. And I'd like to see a couple things in this prototype. I want to see a storm path. I want to see, something that indicates that it's a hurricane, and obviously a map that I can interact with in a much more rich and real way. Pan, zoom, scroll, all those kinds of things. And I want to be able to interact with this, maybe click on the hurricane or the storm track and see more information. That sort of tooltip or drill down. That's again, hard to create in some of the static prototyping tools that we have using just text and images. So something interactive, something in the browser. And as inspiration, I have been playing around a lot with NOAA's historical hurricane tracks and saw as a reference image that I'd like to give to ChatGPT in this case, something to sort of work with here. So we've got the path of the storm as it makes its way through ocean and on land. We have the severity indicators of the hurricane here. And in the NOAA implementation, there are tooltips. So if I click on one of these dots, I see more information. So I'm going to try to get ChatGPT with one or two prompts to get me something that's pretty close to this. I am going to start by saving this image to the desktop. So I'm going to export my selection here. I'm going to make it PNG is fine, solid background, selection only. That's all great. Export that to the desktop. Great. So I've got my image on the desktop. I'm going to pull that over here. And we're going to feed this to ChatGPT as a reference image. So I'm going to say, maybe prototyping with LLMs might actually confuse it. So I'm going to say hurricane tracker. I'm going to spell it correctly and give that to ChatGPT, because now another rapid advancement, we can give it images, spreadsheets, all kinds of things as inputs. We're not just going to give it the input and say go, so the image and say go. We're going to give it a little bit more instructions. So hopefully we get something that doesn't make us really modify or edit the code that much. Again, the name of the game here is rapid prototyping, getting something in the browser really fast. That really shows the advantage of getting in the browser directly as quickly as possible, and that you as a designer can do this yourself. So let's say I'm very polite to ChatGPT. Politeness goes a long way. So I'd like to have an interactive map like the reference image that enables a user to pan and zoom the map. And when they click on a dot on the hurricane path, they see a tool tip with the severity of the storm and its, let's say it's wind speed. That'd be cool. Interactive map, let's say, just to be specific, interactive map of a hurricane um, path, like the reference image that enables a user to pan and zoom. Da, 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 da. Cool. So we've said what we want. We want an interactive map of a hurricane path with dots and tooltips. But we didn't say the output that we want specifically, and LLMs like specificity here. So I'm going to say um, I would like an HTML file and corresponding CSS and JavaScript to make this interactive in a web browser. Um, Generally, I should say almost always, to make a map interactive, you need to have a map service that you're using, Leaflet, Google Maps, OpenStreetMap, something like that. Um, I like Leaflet, so I'm going to say as let's use Leaflet.js as the map service. Boom. Try not to think about these too much. Take a journey and see what we get. And here we go. We're starting to see our output. It's giving us an HTML file. That's promising. And let's just skim this here really quick. We've got a boilerplate HTML document. We've got Leaflet. That is cool. So it is using this library, this mapping library like we asked for, the CSS anyway. We have styles.css for the styles, probably for everything outside the map. It is using Leaflet.js here, so this is great. And we have a script.js file for all the other interactive capabilities in our file here. So this is cool, promising so far. And we've got some CSS. I'm not going to scrutinize that too much right now, but let's check out our JavaScript really quick here. So we have a constant for the map. That's cool. Tile layer, OpenStreetMap. This is cool. It's made up some hurricane data, I'm assuming. We got some lat longs for the positions along the path, categories for the storm strength, wind speed. That is awesome. And category definitions here. So it looks like it's going to add colors to our categories. That's cool. So cool. So without reading everything here, I'm just going to assume that this is going to work somewhat. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy the code for each of these files. And we're going to make these in our text editor. So I've got like a blank file here, blank window in Visual Studio Code. And I've got an untitled folder for this. So let's make some new files. Let's make a file here. We're going to call this, first one is our index.html. If you are not that code familiar as a designer, that if you're not, everything you'll see index.html is your friend. Everything is going to be called index.html, your root file that everything else is going to point to, more or less, for a lot of these throwaway prototypes. So we got our index.html. We chucked in our code. We're going to save that. I'm going to create a new one, right click, new file. And what did it say? Our CSS was called styles.css. Copy this. New file, styles.css. And we're going to paste that in, and I'm going to save it. Not much in there, just a body, the map, leaflet pop-up. Cool. Bare bones. I like it. And we're going to copy our JavaScript and move over here, create a new file, and you got the drill. We're going to call this script.js. New file, script.js. Everything does need to be spelled correctly, so that's one thing to watch out for. And I'm going to save this here. So we got all our things in here: index, script, styles. We're going to do a thing that I learned with my fine colleagues at Pivotal Labs and call the shot. Will this work? We're going to predict what will happen before we run the code. And I think I'm optimistic. I feel like we've got everything in here that we need for this to work. We're calling Leaflet. Uh, Maybe one thing that might prevent this from working is a lot of these mapping libraries require an API key, and you know, I don't see one of those. So we'll find out. But let's see what happens. So I've got my index.html in my untitled folder here. I am going to drag this into my browser here. And wow, this is cool. Okay. Okay, this is sweet. So we have our map. It is pannable. It is zoomable. We've got some zoom controls here. It's using leaflets, probably base map here. And we've got dots. When I click on them, I've already got my tooltip. So this is awesome. And if you're a product designer and you do a lot of stuff in Figma, you're probably already seeing right now, like, holy moly, like positioning these tooltips, they're using real data. And just let's confirm here. So we've got this red one here. That's our H5 with at 150 knots for wind speed. Let's look at our script. And let's see, our H5 here is bright red, FF000, if I remember my hex codes. And our H5 lat long is here at 150 knots. So this is using the data in this object to populate what you're seeing on the screen here. So as an example of how you can start to play with this, right? I say this isn't actually the storm track, this lat long was somewhere else. Let's just show. Let's move our lat long here. Let's go 32 knots or 32 lat and 87. And let's change our wind speeds just so you can see that update in the map to 155. And I'm going to save this, refresh. We'll see this dot jitter a little bit. There we go. Whoops, it's all the way up in Alabama. So this is not realistic, but hey, for funsies, just to illustrate the point, it is updating based off of the real data that is in our JavaScript. I'm going to move this back into the ocean. Whoops, too far. Refresh, move that back. So this is super sweet. One thing that it didn't have that let's go back to our reference, our inspiration here. I want to see a line underneath the dots that shows all the steps in between that the storm took in its life cycle here. Leaflet here in its first pass just gave us the dots. And again, this might be a stopping point, right? For a lot of folks, a couple of years ago, it's like, well, this is as far as I can go. Any more futzing with this is just going to be, a time sink because we're talking some pretty advanced JavaScripting here. But again, with the power of these tools, you can modify this yourself. So let's say, this is awesome. Again, I'm super polite to ChatGPT. It's a personality trait, I guess. So let's say, let's modify this so that there is a line beneath all of the dots along the hurricane path so that the user can see exactly where the storm went. Um, and let's see, maybe, for funsies, to try to get closer to a reference image here, let's say we would like a nav bar on the top. I'd also like a main nav bar along the top of the map, like the NOAA reference image that includes the title of the map, Hurricane Tracker. Let's see what we get. So we asked for, to recap, a line beneath the dots and a nav bar along the top. What are we going to get? Let's find out. Memory updated. That's nice. While it's thinking, one of the coolest things I've found about pair programming with a large language model is that, like pair programming with a human, it recalls things in the conversation, right? I don't have to tell it again, like, back up here, we're making a map and re-explain everything all over again. It follows along the conversation because of its context window, which is one of the incredible things that lets you really riff with the model here. So let's see. It says, let's modify your code to include a polyline that connects the hurricane path and the main navigation bar with Hurricane Tracker. Here's the updated code. Just eyeballing this really quickly. We've got a nav, we've got an H1 with the title Hurricane Tracker, we got our map div. So this is giving me confidence that it's giving me what I want here. Check out the CSS really quick. It's got CSS for the nav bar that it just added in. This is awesome. Um, and styles for my H1. And it is giving me, let's see if I can see if it's modified this code to include a line here. Yep, path line, polyline with lat longs. Okay. Okay, this is super cool. So let's see. I'm going to call the shot here again. I'm optimistic that this is all going to work just based off of what I saw skimming the code. So I'm going to basically just copy and paste over everything that it did before because it looks like it gave me complete files. It didn't just edit sections of each one. It gave me the entire thing that I would need here. So I'm just gonna copy and replace everything. And last one I need is this JavaScript. So copy code here and let's go script, select all and Command V, save. And let's see. So when I refresh this, I should see a navigation bar across the top, and I should see a line here, right, connecting these dots, and not much else. So let's see. Command R, refresh. And holy moly, we've got we've got a nav bar across the top that is staying fixed as we scroll. We have our polyline connecting our dots that's rendered below the circles here. This is just so cool, right? And this is geared towards an audience of my fellow product designers, and you might be thinking, styling this thing is going to be a huge labor, right? This is where I hang up the towel and go back to Figma. Let's see if we can make some tweaks together on the fly super fast here. So one thing that we might want, say we want a grayscale map, right? We really want the data to pop here. Let's see if we can get ChatGPT to do that for us. Great. Let's modify this so that the map is grayscale, is a grayscale theme, let's say. You know what? Let's go map is a dark mode theme. And yeah, let's just do that. Let's see what we get. How is it going to make this change for us? Is it going to do it through CSS? Dark map theme tiles. One popular choice is the CurDB dark matter tile set, which works well with Leaflet.js, part of the Leaflet.js. So updated code. I'm not seeing anything in the map that we need, but just to make sure that this all works, I'm going to go through the motions here. Yeah, it didn't change the HTML at all. I don't think it's going to change the CSS, right? Because it says that it's going to use the dark theme through CarterDB, which it looks like that's all in the JavaScript right here. You can see it commented nicely too. So I'm going to just copy the JavaScript and leave this CSS alone because I don't see anything in here that looks like it changed. So let's go back to script.js. Let's copy and replace everything. And we got our dark mode, save it, and I'm gonna call it again. I think that this is gonna work, unless there's something not right with this URL that it gave us for this tile set. But let's see. Crazy. I don't know what to say other than that's awesome and ridiculously cool. And it just works and that's amazing. Maybe let's do one modification just in the code directly. As you're working with ChatGPT or whatever large language model you use, you're going to start to see some of the things in the code that you can modify on your own without asking the text editor to do it. And I encourage you to do that just as a way of sort of learning what some of this stuff does that it's giving you. You don't have to, clearly, by any means. You could have just copy pasted everything that it gave us, and we could have just popped it straight into the browser and not looked at it. But this is a great practice I've been finding to learn new libraries as ChatGPT and whatever large language model I'm using gives me things to play with. So let's see. I want to change this polyline from, let's say, white to something that's a little less loud. So the dots are the main hero of the show here. I'm going to use Command F to look for line and go to the part of the code that shows us the polyline. And here it looks like it says add the polyline to the map, and it says color white. Let's go 99999. Is that 6 nines? Cool. Hex code for like a middle-ish lady gray. And let's see what happens. Cool. Oh my gosh, that's sweet. I want it darker. Uh, too light. This might be too dark. Overcorrection. Yep, overcorrected. Let's split the difference and go 6666666. There we go. I love it. That's perfect. Ship it. To recap, we have in just, let's see, how many prompts did we give this? I'm gonna say three, 1 to 3 prompts. And even one gave us everything that we needed to make a interactive map that we can put in front of our users. They can play with it. This is a phenomenal way to validate a concept idea early on and get it in the form factor that your end users are using. If you're designing web apps, there is no time like the present to start rapid prototyping in this manner and getting in the browser. And even with mobile apps and things like that, this is an awesome pathway that you can consider to making your early concepts as real as possible, as quick as possible. In less than a half an hour, we've got ourselves a working prototype that you can expand. You can add additional data points to your tooltip here. You could add more polylines to the map here. There's all sorts of ways that you could take this. So I just hope that it opens you up to a world of rapid prototyping if you have been avoiding or for whatever reason have not taken the plunge and gone into the browser as a product designer. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much if you followed all the way along on this journey with us. And I hope that this has sparked some new ideas for you in rapid prototyping and adding some of these tools to your product design practice. Thanks so much.